the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Wow. Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Good evening, folks. This is the Jen and Rick Show, and for once I made sure the mute button isn't still pressed. Good evening, Miss Jen. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm checking the chat just to make sure everybody can still hear us and make sure we don't have a repeat of last week, but I can see levels, so I think we're good. It's been an interesting news day, actually an interesting news week. I'm still a little shell-shocked and want to apologize for the folks that were listening on Thursday night. I actually got pretty overwhelmed about the news from the Dallas shooting, and it's a really hard thing for a talk show host to admit. For about the last 10 minutes of the show, I was almost completely speechless, but it's probably a good thing I was, or you would have heard a lot of expletives or beeping. I'm not sure which.
Well, I think that entire situation was obviously shocking and took us all by surprise. So emotions and just in general, you know, our heads were just kind of going crazy trying to make sense of it all. It only got worse towards the end of our show, and then, you know, obviously got even worse after that. So I don't think anybody will blame you.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that it only got worse, because the thing I guess that has been driving me crazy is when all of this first started, even the Dallas police chief was talking about the fact that they knew they had multiple shooters. There was at least 2, possibly more, and then within 24 to 48 hours, all of a sudden it became the lone gunman scenario. And I'm like, what happened to the other guys? Where are the guys that were in custody? Why is nobody talking about those other people anymore? And I'm just, you know, I'm not trying to put my tinfoil hat on, at least not all the way on, but it just kind of weirded me out that we went from, because from seeing what I saw and hearing what I heard, I find it really hard to believe that somebody with an antiquated rifle like they found on this guy could have inflicted quite that much mayhem. But now I'm sounding like the guys with the JFK shooting, so who knows?
Right. It has been confusing to me too, also that they've possibly found that he lived at home, and so what's the deal with his mother? Where they found further explosives, weaponry, and ammunition. So has she been brought in? Did she disappear like you know, Omar Mateen's wife in Orlando? What's the deal here? It does seem very crazy, and at the time, you know, and witnesses still now are saying that there was stuff coming from various sides. So were these people just planting weapons for him to then move along to? I don't know. It just seems so bizarre to me that has ended up just being one shooter. Though he was able to kill people from a sniper-like position, then also had some like face-to-face interactions and combat with some officers, then was in a parking garage elsewhere. I mean, it's all over the map. It seems pretty unreal that it's just one person.
There's only one explanation: time travel. It's got to be time travel.
Well, we've thought this about many things before. They're keeping it from us.
I mean, though, and we can make light of it, I guess, a little bit at this point, because, I mean, what else are you going to do? You can't stay angry. You can't keep doing what the folks in the government want you to do, because let's face it, they're not really doing anything to assuage anything. Actually, we have some audio that we'll be playing. What we did, folks, was find a couple of different news sources that kind of put some information together and did it pretty succinctly. So we have some snippets from both George W. Bush's speech today as well as Obama's speech today, and we're going to kind of compare and contrast those. One of the things I'd like to play that I did find, though, was a bit of an overview that actually covered a lot of that. I think it was this one, but I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong because I just realized I downloaded so many of them and I didn't really mark them very well. So we're going to try something real quick. I think it's this one because I'm pretty sure it was one of the smaller files. If not, it'll still work.
If we're to sustain the unity we need to get through these difficult times.
President Obama in Dallas today, sending a powerful, personal message.
I'm here to insist that we are not as divided as we seem. And I know that because I know America. I know how far we've come against impossible odds.
Carefully writing his own words of support and solidarity for a nation in mourning.
When all this takes place, more than 50 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act, we cannot simply turn away and dismiss those in peaceful protest as troublemakers.
The stage was set by deadly shootings that have claimed lives, both black and blue.
We ask the police to do too much, and we ask too little of ourselves.
Perhaps more enduring than the words are the images. A lasting tribute for the 5 police officers killed in Thursday's sniper attack.
An act not just of demented violence, but of racial hatred. All of it's left us wounded and angry and hurt.
Former Republican President George W. Bush joining his successor in a rare show of unity.
Those of us who love Dallas and call it home have had 5 deaths in the family.
Each expressing their condolences.
Your loss is unfair. We cannot explain it. We can stand beside you and share your grief.
En route to Texas, the president also called the families of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, the 2 African-American men killed by police last week in Missouri and Louisiana.
He was very pleasant, and he spoke of his concerns and sent his condolences, as well as Michelle.
The trip to Dallas marks a return for President Obama to yet another city heartbroken. His 11th visit to grieve an American mass shooting since taking office.
I've seen too many families go through this. But then I am reminded of what the Lord tells Ezekiel. I will give you a new heart, the Lord says, and put a new spirit in you.
All right, couple things I want to touch on, and then I'll turn the mic over to the co-host for a minute. I actually have listened to the speech in its entirety. I know somebody had to do it. President Obama actually mentioned himself during his speech 45 times while he was supposed to be memorializing fallen officers. And about 3/4 of the way through the speech, it went from a president trying to express condolences and concern to a president trying to politicize and turn something into a gun control rally. It actually got so bad to the point that it was about 40 some odd minutes, I think. About 30 minutes in, there was a pause for applause, and the cops that were standing behind him sat with their hands in their laps. They were clapping 10 minutes prior, and then they sat there and were just completely stoic, stone-faced, and silent for pretty much the remainder of his speech after he changed from caring president to the man who has to do something about gun control to stop this. But I also want to touch on one other thing. They mentioned that he has done this type of thing 11 times in his presidency, that he's had to do something similar to this. And if you'll notice, each time it turns into the same thing. This is no longer about memorializing police officers. It's about understanding the Black Lives Matter movement, accepting the Black Lives Matter movement, and doing something to make sure that everybody basically has to understand where these people are coming from, regardless of what it is that they do and how it is that they sometimes get their message across. And I know this particular shooter was not affiliated with them, but a lot of the folks that were rioting and the other things that have happened throughout his tenure as president have expressed the same type of generalized ideals as the Black Lives Matter movement, and I have a problem with that. There comes a time when, just like with the Westboro Baptist folks, if somebody is that radicalized, it's time to call them what they are. And I'm sorry, in my opinion, with some of the things that we've seen from both Westboro Baptist folks and also the Black Lives Matter movement, I'm ready to call them all terrorists and just get it done. That's just me.
Right. So a couple things. I think you are absolutely correct in what you just said about, but he always turns to this. One of his key phrases during this was "with an open heart," which was a theme, by the way. He kept saying "with an open heart" because of the scripture quote, which I also happen to notice that the 2 times that he quoted scripture, he went into preacher voice, which is kind of annoying. I don't know. That's just like a personal thing, though. I'm like, when he goes into it's
kind of creepy.
Well, it's, and put a new spirit in you. Like, what was the need? He couldn't just read the scripture. Like, he had to go into black preacher voice. It was so weird. It's just kind of a strange thing that he does when he's kind of invoking the spirit. But so this open heart thing, he started many sections of his speech with an open heart, we can. With an open heart, this happened, da-da-da. So one key phrase in there, though, was "with an open heart, we can abandon the overheated rhetoric and the oversimplification that reduces whole categories of our fellow Americans, not just to opponents, but to enemies." But that's what he's done. And in fact, it's exactly what Hillary Clinton has done on multiple occasions by actually calling Republicans her enemies. But he has often used overheated rhetoric and oversimplified. In fact, he even did a little bit in this very speech. So it's kind of hard to take seriously, also pretty frustrating to hear. I was also going to mention, so you said that Obama said, I 45 times, mentioned himself or said I 45 times, and I found it, I actually went back and looked at the transcripts of both of these. And while about half of those I do consider pretty justified, just because it was saying things like, now I understand that with this, or I also think, or, something like that, where it's like he's saying like an I feel terrible for. So that's why he's mentioning that word. It's something all of us do. But there were still at least 24 or more that were actually more directly relating to him. I went back on the transcript for President Bush, and there are actually only 3 I's in the entire transcript. And those 3 I's are at the very beginning, where he says, "Thank you, Senator. I, too, am really pleased that President Obama and Mrs. Obama have come down to Dallas. I also want to welcome Vice President, Mrs. Biden, Mr. Mayor, Chief Brown, elected officials, members of the law enforcement community, Laura and I see members of law enforcement every day. We count them as our friends, and we know, like for every other American, that their courage is our protection and shield. That's his opening statement. It's where he's thanking the people that have invited him to speak and be there and welcoming those that are also there in support. And that's the last time he says that. He uses I.
Well, there's a good reason for that. President Bush isn't a narcissist.
Right. But I also think it's interesting in the way in which he phrases things when he speaks. And he did this after 9/11. He did it all throughout his presidency. He talks about us, we, they, our. Everything is about us as one, as humans, as Americans. And he includes himself right there with it instead of like, I agree too, like you do. I mean, he cuts out that crap. It's most of us imagine if the moment called for that we would risk our lives to protect a spouse or child. Those wearing the uniform assume that risk for the safety of the strangers. They and their families share the unspoken knowledge that each new day can bring new dangers. He puts it in relative terms that doesn't involve the like, I can't imagine. It's we can't. We, the collective we. So I did find that really interesting because I've heard that number multiple times today about how many times Obama, referenced himself or used the word I. So I spent about 10 minutes before this broadcast scouring the transcript of Bush's speech. And I did find it really interesting that there was just only that very introductory reference to himself.
And for the record, I'm going to get either a tweet, a DM, or an email stating that I'm nitpicking. I usually do. But one's speaking style is often fairly well attributed also to their leadership style, because typically how you speak to people is the same way you treat them in a leadership role. How you speak about people is the same way you treat them when they are your subordinates, your superiors, whatever the case may be. And the one thing that George Bush has always done, 43, has always done, is he has shown deference to the American people by making it not just about himself, but about everyone, because as a public servant, he actually did view it as his God-given ability to make sure that people were safe. And that's why he was put in the positions that he was in. And it's a lot different when you see somebody coming at it from that perspective, because it does come through in how they talk to you, how they talk about the situation. And it's as blatantly clear as what you just outlined. Yeah, about half of the times that Obama said I, it's still something that would have been kind of innocent, not really that big of a deal because it was appropriate with what he was saying. But at the same time, when you're trying to unify a country and make them understand that this is bad, no matter what the motivations were, no matter what the issues are, these are people that swore to serve and protect, that have laid down their life in the ultimate sacrifice, doing what they swore to do. And it doesn't just have to be about flipping Barack Hussein Obama. That's not what today was supposed to be about. George Bush managed to do that. I actually have audio that we'll play here in just a little bit, probably when we come back from the break, where he's actually talking about how we can come together as a country. Obama never really said anything like that. He skirted it. He sounded like he almost got there, and then he turned it into a gun control speech. I am so outraged at that man and the fact that he cannot go a single time without politicizing a tragedy and making it about a political point. That's not what any of this was supposed to be about. It's not what it should be about. It was about to remember these people that put their life on the line and paid the ultimate price. And the fact that so many people on the left want to make it about gun control and want to make it about whatever other issues they can find to make it about, it just makes me so damned angry. And I'm going to stop talking before I start yelling because I have people in the other room trying to sleep.
No, but I think that you're right. It's different. If he was addressing the nation in his own personal press conference on the topic, it's still obnoxious. It's still so, I think, irresponsible to use it as a political platform and capitalize on these men's deaths. But it's even more astonishing and reprehensible when it's actually at their memorial service. And real quickly, though, before we go into a little bit of a breakdown of some of the things that he politicized, I was going to say, I also found it really funny in that clip that CNN, like whoever was the, doing the voiceover on CNN was like, and carefully writing his own words for a nation. How do you know? You don't know that. And it's like, the stage was set by deadly shootings that claimed both lives, black and blue. I just had to crack up, like, what is this? This is like a bad TV drama. And obviously, You know
what it reminded me of now that you mentioned that? You're a little younger than me, so you probably didn't have quite the same experience I did in school, but they used to have these little film strip things with the crazy narrators that you would have to listen to that you would have to watch every once in a while, and it was like, it just had the cheesy music and the really well-scripted, perfectly enunciated announcer, and that's exactly, now that you've mentioned it, what ran through my head the first time I heard the voiceover work. I was like, oh my God, it's like I'm back in grade school.
As a nation mourns. I'm just like, oh, good grief. It was kind of silly. Well, so real quick, and maybe we'll just talk about this for a second, and then we'll go to the break, and then we kind of can break down a few of the other things that just like really, irked us. But there were a few good points, I felt like, in his speech, and let's just pretend like we don't know, like, let's forget about whether he meant them or not. I do just think it was really good that he pointed this out. He said it was not just an act of demented violence, but of racial hatred. I feel like that's one of the first times we've heard him be genuinely honest about a situation like this when it involves a black man or an Islamic terrorist, either of them, and he was very pointed saying that, but of racial hatred. So I thought I kind of went, whoa, okay, did I hear that right? And had to listen to it again. So that was good. And then he talked about how these police were, kind of protecting like the best of us in truly upholding the constitutional rights of this country. Which I kind of also went, do you remember what those are? Because you seem to dispute them a lot. But okay, that was good. They were upholding the constitutional rights of people to peacefully protest. And there was also, what was the other thing that he said that I was like, that was kind of good. Well, anyways, I mean, he did make some key points, and he talked about some things that, while maybe not like the most awesome thing to hear at a memorial, we're not just completely loathsome. They were like, yep, there's going to be differences. There's going to be, things. And when you have but he commented on the protesters and the police officers and how leading up to the shootings, they were engaging peacefully. They were even taking photos, all of that kind of stuff. I think it was important for someone like him who does point out all the divide, to also point out the unity and to point out some of the positive notes of what was happening, and then to be brutally honest and admit that this was a black man being racist against white cops. He targeted them for that very reason. He said so himself.
That's the one thing that I was going to comment on. I was actually pleasantly surprised when he finally said that, because it was just a couple of days ago that he was telling people that we'll probably never really understand what his true motivations were, and then today he actually said it. And I have to admit that was when I started wondering if someone else had wrote the speech for him and he just grudgingly left it in there.
Right. I mean, I really did. I rewound it twice. Like, make sure I got this in the right context, because I need to know that I'm not going to mess this up. So yeah, but I mean, we all know it was racially motivated.
I think one of the things that really kind of set me off, and the funny thing is there's actually a Twitter hashtag trending about it, was one of the parts of the speech I was looking for and didn't have time to get it turned into a short enough clip, was when, right about the time when he started politicizing everything again, he started talking about how hard to get a hold of a weapon than it is to go get a library book. I don't know when the last time the president had to check out a library book was, but last I checked, it's not that complicated.
It's easier for a teenager to buy a Glock than get his hands on a computer or even a book. I about fell out my chair. That is such insane propaganda. That is so purposefully said in order to push the narrative that guns are just like lying. I mean, that you can just like walk into a store and get one no problem, no matter what. Teens? No, teens can't buy guns. And if they do, they're getting them illegally. And that's not at the fault of legal gun owners, nor the NRA. He's the one that has helped put guns into the hands of people that are, it's just outright disastrous to this country. But, hush, hush, nobody ever talk about that.
Well, I had an epiphany about that, though. I think I understand why he thinks it's so easy to get guns. Isn't he one of the folks involved in the Fast and Furious thing?
Well, right. That's what I mean about him putting them into the hands. So there are like 5 or 6 other major points I'd like to break down a little bit about this, but we probably need to take a break first. Yeah, it's all right. We can take a quick break. When we come back, we'll keep breaking down the speech, and then we have some other things to get to before the close of the show. But we did plan on spending most of the show kind of dissecting this anyway, because it's been the main news topic for quite a while now. So we're going to pay a couple bills. Be right back here in about 3 minutes. You are listening to Jen and Rick on K98 Talk.
Time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. And again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome. You know I wouldn't if I could, 'cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is Jen and Rick show going, spending the majority of the show going over the memorial event in Dallas today, and the speech made by President Obama. And if we have time, I do have a clip from, a little bit of the clip from George W. Bush as well, but we are actually getting towards the end of the show at this point, so I want to make sure we get through as much of it as possible. Now, before we went to break, Jen, you did mention that there were a few other points you wanted to touch on with the speech, so I'm going to turn the mic back over to you.
Okay, so, he talked about, he said some really great things, is what I was saying at the beginning. They all sounded nice, and I'm not going to try to decide whether his heart was in them or not. I'm kind of overdoing that with not just Obama, but politicians in general. I know it seemed like it was kind of part of the speech and didn't seem as emotionally connected to me, but that's my opinion. But then after he finishes that, which is about not even half of his speech, then he launches into this whole like problems in America type thing. And, he talks about the bias remains. None of us is entirely innocent. And that includes our police departments, and talks about how, that there are like, the bad ones, and that undermines like good officers. I just found it wholly inappropriate to kind of lecture and say, hey, you know what? None of us is perfect. And by the way, that means you too, police. That's why people were protesting you. It just felt very finger wagging, and I wasn't into it. And then he talked about how, like as African American parents, they have to have the talk about how to respond if stopped by the police. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry. My parents had the talk with me too. And it wasn't just for police. It was for the principal. It was for the gate guard. It was for basically any adult of authority that approached me or stopped me for any reason. It was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That is a silly thing to say, is like, oh, we have to tell our kids to, defer to authority because they're black and they still might get shot. Well, we've seen time and time again in most of these cases, it's the lack of compliance that results in a problem. And no, that does not necessarily excuse or just excuse extreme force, nor does it justify a death. But the fact of the matter is if they had said yes or no, sir, do whatever you say, sir, and had complied, then we wouldn't even be talking about the use of force. We wouldn't even be talking about, unfortunately, we wouldn't be talking and mourning their deaths. So that part really was obnoxious to me as well. Then it really kind of boiled over. He talked about, like, if your kid's wearing a hoodie and goofing off, like, hopefully that office, as we, unite, that officer can see their own teenager and that kid in a hoodie and goofing off, which I think was a hat tip to Trayvon, which was not just in a hoodie goofing off. And then, hopefully the teenager can see their parents and the cops and their, authority and values and the wisdom of what they're saying. And I couldn't help but think, but in so many of these situations, what parents? That sounds so harsh, but what parents? So many are not having this example set for them to even understand how to remotely, respect or relate to a police officer. And so that's kind of that whole thing about, he said earlier about oversimplification. Well, he's oversimplifying these issues and these incidents that have happened. And then the final one that really made my blood boil was him saying, we all can hear the pain, or, should be able to hear and feel the pain of Alton Sterling's family. You can't hear whatever he cooked enough for everybody, and not think maybe he wasn't so different than us. He is pushing a damn narrative that the media is trying to put out there, that unfortunately this man's family is putting out there. This man was a felon and a sex offender. No, I think he's pretty dang different than me. He has kids by multiple women, none of which he is providing for, and was not this kind of reformed character that was just trying to sell some CDs to get on the right track. He had been arrested more than not even 3 weeks before that. He was on a constant, cycle of criminality, and it's just embarrassing to use him. No matter what the circumstances of his death, I think it was absolutely embarrassing and inappropriate to use him when discussing the lives of these slain officers who risked their lives to protect people protesting their very being, and then gave them in doing that. I found it absolutely distasteful and disrespectful.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And again, that was another one of those points that got me. Actually, I was listening to the speeches as much as possible today while I was at the day job. That was when I finally gave up and basically turned it off and realized I was going to have to listen to the rest of it later, because it really does affect you when you realize that the President of the United States is using the deaths of 5 officers to push a damn narrative. It wasn't about memorializing those officers. It wasn't about comforting the families and the friends that lost loved ones. It was about wagging a finger at police departments and saying, see, now you understand why we're so mad at you. This is why we've protested you all of these times. This is why I've had to do this now 11 times under my presidency, because it doesn't matter how many good ones of you there are. There are bad ones, and we have to root out the bad ones. And then he tries to put this positive spin on it again, and it's just sickening to listen to. And the fact that the media is glomming onto it and doing exactly what you just talked about from Film Strip Narration Lady, and trying to make it this wonderful scene where Obama's using these heartfelt words and trying to unite the country, he couldn't be doing anything further from the truth. He's not trying to unite anyone. His entire presidency has been about division. His entire presidency has been about fundamentally transforming America, and I'm here to tell you that nearly 8 years later, he's pretty much done it, because now we have people willingly gunning down officers in the streets. There used to be at least a line that regular, everyday folks didn't cross. Those lines are gone. I mean, for the first time ever, we had a police department use a tactic that has up until now only been used on foreign soil. And it's not a bad tactic, mind you, but just something they've never had to do before. They used a bomb disarming robot. They improvised an explosive device, willed it in there, blew it up to take out the guy. That's not something that any of our police officers here have ever had to deal with. I mean, what are we, probably about 10 years away from looking like Israel at this point? There's going to start being armed guards on every corner. The police are going to be running around with M16s. Is that where we're headed to be able to keep things safe? Because I have a feeling that's exactly where this administration and other people in the government want us to be, is something closely resembling martial law.
I mean, it's seeming more and more that way. It's kind of crazy. I think that... I think the contrast here, though, was so stark to me with President Bush. And, you know, he didn't speak all that long. And, you know, for everything that Obama was saying, we already talked about the eyes and this and that. But not only was there no lecture, and of course that's not, first of all, President Bush's way, but it's also not really the Republican side of things to do that. But just some of the stuff he was saying, I mean, he was talking about mourning these men, you know, the people, how people have rallied to support them and their families, how how Chief Brown was really uniting everybody, and about the uniform and how you assume risk for people you don't know, and how that can often end up in you know, actually making the ultimate sacrifice, and how Americans are bound by these common ideals. We're bound by things of the spirit, not just of things right here on this earth, that it's about our ideals and our like higher purpose, and the destiny that has brought us all together. It just was profound. And some people I saw were saying, well, it was really kind of vague. And I just thought, well, you know, when it's times like these and it's in a memorial service like this, profound and vague works well. And specifically when you were not personally acquainted with those that were lost. So I didn't really understand. I also saw some really awesome comments on Facebook about, you know, about what a dummy he still is and all of that kind of stuff, because people just can't turn that off. And, you know, maybe we're not turning it off with Obama, but I still, they just seem like two totally different. It seemed like two speeches that belonged at two totally separate events. One belonged at the memorial and one belonged at a press conference or Black Lives Matter fundraising dinner, maybe.
Exactly. And actually, speaking of that, we do have a little bit of the Bush audio. I'm going to go ahead and run some of that now. I'm not going to run the whole thing because we're down to about 10 minutes, but I did want to let at least some of this run, so could ever get the computer to cooperate with me here.
Thank you all. Thank you, Senator. I, too, am really pleased that President Obama and Mrs. Obama have come down to Dallas. I also want to welcome Vice President Mrs. Biden, Mr. Mayor, Chief Brown, elected officials, members of the law enforcement community. Today, the nation grieves, but those of us who love Dallas and call it home have had 5 deaths in the family. Laura and I see members of law enforcement every day. We count them as our friends. And we know, like for every other American, that their courage is our protection and shield. We're proud of the men we mourn and the community that has rallied to honor them and support the wounded. Our mayor and police chief and our police department have been mighty inspirations for the rest of the nation.
All right, so we really don't have to let too much more of that play for you to get a clear contrast in your head between not only the speaking styles, but as far as I'm concerned, the overall differences between the men giving the speeches that happened today. There were, again, as we've already talked about, very few I's. It was all about we. Even that part of the speech was completely focused on the reason why everybody was there. There was no politicization. There was none of it. And the Bush's speech all the way through, never at any point does he do anything other than say that we as Americans will and must find a way to come together. None of this, it's all about the guns. We have to realize that the kids in the hoodie could be your kids too, and the kids have to put themselves in the cops' shoes, and the cops have to put themselves in the kids' shoes, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to point out when I was speaking about Sterling a minute ago and Obama's commenting on that is, once again, he has come out and spoken on something before the investigation is even complete. And at least with these officers, we know who the person was. We know what their motivations were. And we know that they were killed in cold blood. We have no evidence that Sterling was actually, murdered. Yet he's already speaking on it and treating it like that and calling it just like this poor guy that was killed by bad police. And we don't have any of those true facts yet. And if it turns that out to be that turns out to be the case, then absolutely something should be done. But it was just wrong to use this as a platform to kind of embolden the faction of the Democratic Party and to also kind of bolster Black Lives Matters, I think, in a way so that I wouldn't think like, oh, everybody thinks you're wrong. To stay popular, let's say, to be liked by those groups in that crowd. He felt the need to say those things.
All right, so any other thoughts before we move on to the last segment?
Now let's go.
All right,
we've wasted enough time on them.
Yeah.
on Obama. Let me be clear. On Obama, we've wasted enough time.
Did you really just say, let me be clear?
Let me be clear. I did.
All right, so we're going to close out the show like we always do, kind of taking a look at the lighter side of the political news. I actually have a little clip I thought you might find amusing, so we're going to get that queued up right now.
I am the law and order candidate.
That's right, folks. That's what he's telling everyone now. He's the law and order candidate. I swear to God, didn't Goldwater try that? Wasn't that also Nixon's talking point? He was the law and order candidate.
Oh my gosh, the law and order candidate. I can't. I
didn't have the sound effect queued up, otherwise I would have played it, but I don't know. I think I may make that a permanent part of our intro when we finally get one put together. Him saying that with the Law and Order theme in the background would kind of probably be priceless.
That was my ringtone for a very long time.
I don't know. I don't know why, but I can't stop laughing at that. I also really can't stop or can't help but laugh at the fact that the 15 people that were still supporting Bernie are now officially feeling the burden today as he sold himself to the establishment.
Oh my gosh. And you know what's so funny? So I've realized I spoke of my super uber lib sister-in-law that I visited, last month. She is so she hates Bernie with like a passion I didn't even really know existed. Like so much more than she hates Republicans or hates more than I hate Trump, I think. Like, that's hard to do, but she does. I mean, she has it out for the guy. And I ended up finding out that there are a lot of Hillary supporters that are like this. They're not even like, it's not even like, oh, well, he's annoying because we want her, but, you know, we'd still support. I mean, they're like do or die, like, hell no, we will never support him. And I found it really funny. I started reading some op-eds today, particularly one that was in the New York Times, where people are just like so mean. And it's so funny to me to watch Democrats go through this little war together.
It's entertaining because for once, and probably only once, the complete crazy isn't just on our side. It's just, yeah. It's so funny to watch a guy that, I'm sorry, to me has always come across like Christopher Lloyd. Anybody remember Back to the Future, Doc Brown? To me, that when I hear Bernie Sanders talk, I'm reminded of either Doc Brown or Jim Ignatowski from Taxi.
He is Doc Brown, though. It's so funny. Well, okay, so this one op-ed was so hilarious because he was like, Sanders avoided. So, first of all, they're talking about, you know, his endorsement of Clinton. It says, Bernie Sanders went off for a month to contemplate life after the revolution, and this was the best he could come up with. Secretary Clinton has won the Democratic nominating process, and I congratulate her for that. And this person's so mad about it. So, like, he's endorsing her, and they still hate him, and they're still mad. Says, Sanders avoided subjects like war and foreign affairs since he and Clinton disagree violently on those things. He harped on his successes. But it was passing strange when he claimed that he and his backers showed the world that we could run a successful national campaign based on small individual contributions. Yes, if you define successful as losing. I was like, oh my gosh, people are out of their minds. But, I mean, I'm kind of disappointed he wasn't like trying to push it through, like he said before, because I was just ready for both conventions to just be ridiculous. But whatever. We all knew he was going to have to support Clinton in the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I was honestly kind of looking forward to being able to cover news stories about revolts at both conventions, but I guess we're not going to get there. Actually, back to Trump for just a second. One interesting piece of news. Did you hear about the judge's decision with the Virginia delegates?
Briefly.
So basically, the judge upheld. I don't remember if he upheld an earlier decision or overturned it, but the judge's ruling is that the delegates are not bound. They can actually vote for whomever they choose, which will be an interesting precedent. And it set a lot of people aflutter, especially on places like Twitter, because they're like, "Oh my God, we're not a democracy anymore because now they don't have to vote the will of the people." When we haven't been a democracy ever.
But not only that, primaries have nothing to do with our democracy. The primaries are a made-up part of our democratic process. This is not something that is. They are not something that are necessarily. They're not constitutional rights nor legally bound in any way. That's what's so ridiculous about all of that. Like, the party can choose whoever the heck they want to, and they've made the rules that have made it so that they can't. I mean, they've made the rules to where it is the people's choice throughout the primaries. But that is not a guaranteed right that we have to like have a primary, and whoever wins that primary gets to be the nominee of a certain party. Republicans didn't even exist back then when they wrote the Constitution. Not in the party sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant. But yeah, I mean, I still go all the way back to 2000 and the hanging chads and the popular vote. And again, I want to push forward the narrative that the Democrats and Republicans have again switched places, because now the Republicans are the ones that want everything done by popular vote, not by the Electoral College. Right. Just saying. All right, so anyway... On that note, folks, we are about out of time. Miss Jen, as we always do, as we're closing out the show, why don't you remind folks where it is that they can interact with you should they choose to do so when we are not on here acting like we know what we're doing on the radio?
Well, you can find me on Twitter pretty much always at J Homestead, Facebook JR Homestead, and then misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
All right, folks, and as usual, I am Rick Robinson, host of America Off the Rails here on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now move back to 11 Eastern. Jen and Rick on Tuesdays and Thursdays are still at our regular time, 10 Eastern. And if you like what we're doing around here, shoot me an email. If you hate what we're doing around here, why are you listening? Just playing. All right, so on that note, folks, we're out. You have a great night. I'll be back with you live tomorrow night. Up next, we do have the Loftus Party, and then after that, we have the Rhino Report. So still lots of good radio here left on K98. That's right, it's summertime, reruns suck, you might as well hang around, and I'll see you guys tomorrow live right here back.
Back down, 'cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now, you know I wouldn't if I could, 'cause I'm proud as hell.